So here on chapter 5, supply decisions, we are looking here at the supply. Now here in the supply chapter, you need to start to think like service provider. You can think that you are a babysitter providing babysitting for other people. You can think like you are maybe doing work for some other people. Maybe you in your job, how much what you do in your daily job, that's supply. Or maybe you think you are the farmer. Okay, and remember, if you're a supplier, your ability, which means I am able to, I have the land, and I have the material I need to use in order to farm. I have maybe the truck or contractor or an ox or a machinery, and I have the skills to farm. I know the seasons. I have the know-how to farm tomatoes and how to protect tomatoes from the different diseases and bacteria and parasites. So here I am able, and I am also willing. So I am willing to do that, to sell or produce specific quantities of a good at alternative prices in a given time period, ceteris paribus. Okay, the ceteris paribus is like they. Everywhere you see at the end, you say, ceteris paribus. Now, factors of production. The factors of production here become important because factors of production are needed to produce. So every time we talk about production, we're talking about labor. So if I'm a farmer and I have some land, I need to have a land, and I have to have the labor, and I need to have maybe some of the capital, equipment, and I need to be an entrepreneur myself so I can do it. You see? And you can think about it like I'm going to open a new telecommunication shop. If I open a telecommunication shop, well, I need first to have a shop, which is land. And then maybe I need to hire someone to be there, or maybe I am the laborer. And then I decided to open it, so I am the entrepreneur. And I need to have some sort of capital. Maybe some investment so I can actually do the business I'm doing. There are the resources input used to produce goods and services, and there's a labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurship. You guys are okay with the factors of production? That's great. Now here we've got what we call production function. Okay, now let's look at this production function. Now the production function over here, let's see, we have here short-run production function. And we've got here what we call A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. And this is labor input, workers per day. And here we have output, pairs of genes per day. So here, we're talking about a business and we're going to produce genes. Okay? So if I bring 0 people to work, how many genes do I produce? 0. If I bring someone to work, how many genes I make? 15. Is this reasonable? Let's say it's just an example. Let's say we get 2 people. How many I produce? 34. Which one was better, 1 or 2? 2. Okay. See, with 1 I get 15. With 2 I get 34. Now that's even better. If I get 3 people, I can make 44.
We're supposed to make 45. Clean.
You see? Now if I get 4 people, I will be able to make 48. 5, 50. 6, 51. 7 people, 51 also. So see, if I have 6 people or 7 people, I do the same thing. Guy number 7, they just sit there, they don't do anything. Do you see? This guy number 7 was hired by some, just to be there. Do you see? Maybe is there to keep the other people safe, or maybe to keep them happy. Do you see? But number 8. You see, here you get someone more. Keep talking with the employees and keep them away from their production. Actually, the total production is already reduced. So here we've got, this is what we call the production function. There is a technological relationship expressing this maximum quantity of a good attainable from different combinations of factors inputs. So here we want to look at this, how we produce. A production function tells us how much output we can produce with a varying amount of a factor input. So here, kind of short-run production function, and you guys see the problems. Guy number 2 was amazing. Guy number 7 didn't do anything. Guy number 8, really, confused everyone else.
He's a load on maximum output, we need 6 workers.
So if I get 6, we'll be happy. Maybe we don't want the 7 and 8. Okay. Is that true?
Yeah, true.
So in your company, who's the guy number 6? And who's the guy number 7? And who's the guy number 8? You're number 8?
No.
You're number 7?
If you're number 8 was the boss.
The boss is the number 8.
No, the boss is always there. Let's see everyone else. Now here is, we put it in a graph. So here with 0 we have 0. With 1 we have 15. With 2 we reach the 35. This is point D, E. And you see from E to F, very small increment. From F to G, this is guy number 6. This is 7. 6 and 7, nothing. This guy number 8, the total production decreased. Okay. So watch out from guy number 8. Efficiency. The idea of efficiency is that every point on the production function represents the most output that can be produced with that given number of workers. And producing any less means production is inefficient. So we can see that at some point we reached inefficiency where we go less. Capacity. What do we mean by capacity? Capacity is a production function, shows how much output can be produced with a given amount of input. Now you remember, what was the maximum total units we produced? 51. We couldn't do more than 51. That's the maximum. You see, that's the capacity maybe. So land and capital, they always constrain place and ceiling on the potential output. Remember, this is the maximum we could. This is like, we can't have more. Now, can we have 100 people in this class? No. Now, can we have 101? No. Even if we do whatever same thing for, businesses. You can have so much, given the land, labor, capital, and, there's so much that there's always a maximum point where you reach. And to produce at a capacity, a firm needs to use its inputs efficiently. So if we want to do this 51, we can reach 6 and we stop. And we understand that's our capacity. And here we start to talk about the idea of a marginal physical product, MPP. What is MPP? It's the marginal physical product, and it equals the change in total output divided by change in input quantity. And it's the change in total output associated with one additional unit of input. Remember that one additional person? How much this one additional person will add. So the MPP for guy number 7 was 0. Didn't add anything. So here we start to look at this MPP. It's an improved ratio of labor to other factors of production, resulting in increased marginal physical product. And a worker's productivity or marginal physical product depends on the part of the amount of other resources in the production process. So it also depends on how much land you have. And the law of diminishing return says that the marginal physical product of any variable input will decline or diminish as more of it's employed with a given quantity of other fixed inputs. So here, the law of diminishing return says guy number 1 will produce 15, number 2 maybe more than 15, and then we start to see less additional units until that guy number 7 who added 0, and then guy number 8 who added negative. Remember when people get sick when they eat too much? That's in consumption, right? In demand. Now here we're looking at supply. Now, companies, when they supply, if they have a lot of labor, given in the short run, remember the word short run, they can reach a point where they are sick, where you add more, labor, you don't produce as much, rather you go negative. The additional resources inputs are less valuable to this firm. Now, research constraints as marginal physical product may initially increase due to specialization of labor. So, at the very beginning, remember when we went from 0 to 1 and then from 1 to 2? There was a big increase, 15 and then even more than 15 when we reached 34. So that's what we call it is specialization. Because remember, if we are doing this jeans business and we've got, let's say, 2 people or 3 people, they specialize. This person, they do the upper part, this person do the lower part. They specialize, then they can produce better together. As more labor, though, is hired, each unit of labor has less capacity, less capital, less land to work with. Imagine 5 people working on one jeans. Probably there is no space, to work on that one jeans. As a result, marginal physical product began to decline. And the relative scarcity of other inputs, because there is limited land or limited capital, constrains the marginal physical product of labor. They constrain the marginal physical product of labor. So this MPP can be negative. Marginal physical product may become negative if too much labor is added to a fixed level of capital and land. So if you want to produce more than 51, what should you do? Get more land, more capital. Do you see? And that's what we call the long term. Do you see? So in the short term, with the fixed capital and land, we add labor, decline. But now we need to expand our land and capital so that we can go to more than 51. And as some labor is hired, each unit of labor has less capital and land to work with. So here we've got the idea of a short run and a long run. What's a short run? Short run, you have a fixed capital and land. But in the long run is when you decided to expand your capital and land. That's why we see some companies, and you would have seen Nujum al-Sham.
Yes.
They started with like 1, 2 shops, and then they started to do like a second and a third and a fourth building, and there's a next building, and there's, you see, so here it's like a full neighborhood now. It's going to be in Nujum al-Sham city maybe, in order to be able to accommodate the demand, and that's a long run for them. So they're going on the long run very quickly.
So it's period, not.
Because with this limited amount, you can add more labor, but you can't you can't reach more than number of customers per. Same thing for all. Now, short run, the period in which the quantity and quality of some input cannot be changed. So here, when we say short run, land is fixed, capital is fixed. But in the long run, a period of time long enough for all inputs to be varied. There's no more fixed cost because you're expanding as you go.
Can we measure it with years?
No, it depends on the Nujum al-Sham expansion over 2 years maybe. But you can look at maybe farmers. They can maybe per season, so they can expand on every season. So the season for a farm will be maybe a short run. And so it will depend on what the business is. Production function tells us how much a firm could produce, but not how much it will want to produce. So the production function will show us, giving this fixed capital or this fixed land, we can produce 51. Now, do we want 51? That's another question. Most desired rate of output is one that maximizes total profits. So how many you want to do? You want to do 51, 100? We need to look at the profits. So here we start to need to look at profit, which means not just revenues but costs. So profit is the difference between total revenue and total cost. So here, let's look at total profit and total cost. Total profit, difference between total revenue and total cost. And total cost is the market value of all resources used to produce a good or a service. By the way, are you guys still following?
Yes.
I'm assuming that the material is like very smooth and easy, I'm assuming. That's an assumption. If you have a question, raise your hand. Okay? If you're totally lost and tired, raise your hand. It's okay. If you're half tired, half lost, raise your hand.
How are you going to raise your hand while you're tired?
That's a good question. That's an MPP by itself. Remember? Let's see. Do you guys have any questions? Please let me know, okay? And then we've got this idea of a fixed cost. Now, do you guys know what's fixed costs?
The cost that
Fixed cost is the cost of production that do not change with the rate of output. Do you guys remember the example of this lemonade business? You have a lemonade business, you go and you buy a mixer, right? Then you buy lemon, sugar, water. You mix them and you start to sell lemon. Now in this business, this mixer is going to be your fixed cost. You sell zero, you have to pay for it. You see? And that's going to be the cost of production that do not change with the rate of output. Fixed costs cannot be avoided in the short run. So you have to buy the mixer for you to do this business. And examples of a fixed cost will be maybe the plant, the mixer, the equipment, any property taxes if there's property taxes. Do we have property taxes in this country? No.
Yes.
But it depends on if it's awqaf, then you have property tax. Now, variable cost is the cost of production that will change when the rate of output is altered. So, what's a variable cost in the lemonade business? The lemon and the water and the sugar. That will be cost of production that will change when the rate of output is altered. So, if I produce one lemon, different than if I produce 10 lemon juices. And any short-run change in total cost is a result of change in variable cost. Examples of variable costs include labor and material. So also the labor, the guy who works on the lemonade business, that's going to be a variable cost. Okay, assuming that you pay them per hour and depending on how many hours you. Are you guys okay with this variable cost?
Yes.
Now we talked about fixed cost, which is fixed, you have to pay, and variable cost, which is going to depend on how much you produce. Now let's look at this graph. Here it shows you the total cost. This is total cost including variable cost and fixed cost. If I produce 0 units, I have to pay 100 fixed cost and 0 variable cost. If I produce 10 units, I have to pay $100 here for fixed cost, plus I need to go and pay whatever variable cost to reach point B. So this is the variable cost and this is the fixed cost, and if you add them both, you get your total cost. And you can see total cost looks like this. It starts like this and then starts to go, and then here it reaches like very high. Okay? Are you guys okay with this?
Actually, why will not keep moving to the right side?
Yeah, it should be keeping. It should go like this. But here, the reason they say that it goes like this is because let's see. If we are talking here about pairs of jeans per day, this is like in one day, and you have this fixed cost, and then you add more, and you remember when you reach a point where this is the maximum you can produce, 51. Remember? So this is the 51. If you try to do more, you see, you get more labor, you get more units, it increases the cost, but doesn't increase the total production. So this is fixed, variable, and total cost. Now, which costs matter? Should the firm consider both fixed and variable costs when making production and pricing decisions? To answer the question, the concept of average and marginal cost need to be introduced. So let's learn about, let's look at this example here. In this example here, we have point HIJKLM. And we have here the rate of output. In point H, we produced 0, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. Okay? Now here, we have the fixed cost. Fixed cost is $120. So if we produce 0, we have to pay 120. If we produce 10, we have to pay 120. So this 120 is a fixed cost. That's maybe the cost of a mixer. Okay? And then here the variable cost. If I produce 0 units, there is no variable cost. I don't have to pay any sugar or lemonade or lemons. If I produce 10, I have to pay 85 for the lemon and sugar. If I produce 15, I have to pay 125. If I produce 20, I have to pay 150. 30, 280, 40, 350. That's the cost of this variable cost. Now, what's the total cost? You add this plus this. You get this. So these will be the total cost. Now here, we've got this new column that says average total cost. Now, average total cost, you basically take the total cost and you divide it by how many units. So 120 divided by 0, you get an infinity number, so we put a dash. Now, 250 divided by 10, that's $20 per lemon of juice. That's the average cost, right? How much do you want to sell this juice for? Maybe $25? It's not a lemon juice. It must be like a lemon juice with some pistachio. Yeah, $20. Let's say this is like a cup of coffee. Okay, so we've got this machine for coffee production, and we've got the cost of coffee. So you can sell it for $25. Okay, it costs you 20 on average. But see, if you add your production, if you add the quantity, here it's only 11, the average cost. Do you see? So it starts 20 at the beginning, but as you produce more, the average per unit starts to drop. Do you see?
Thing or bad thing?
That's good. That's good. Let's see. See, for example, here. Let's take an example here in LIU. We open a class and we have 5 students. Now there is a fixed cost per class. You have to pay an instructor, and it's a space used. You know, it uses from the total capacity or capital or land. You see. So here you get 5 students. It doesn't pay for the fixed cost. Now the more number you add students, then the average, cost per students, starts to become more reasonable. So total cost divided by the quantity produced in a given time. And remember, you buy this mixer, okay, or coffee machine, right? And you paid $40,000 for this machine. Now you have to sell a lot of coffee to cover up, the cost of this fixed cost. So here we've got total cost over total output. ATC, do you know what's ATC? Average total cost. Now let's put this on a graph. This is the graph. This is point I, $20, J, K, L, M. Now, of course, if you see the previous slide, we had H, I, J, K, L, M, right? So H, I, J, K, L, M. We didn't see N, O. Now the NO, that's when it goes back up. Remember? Why does it go back up? Because remember when the costs start to become very expensive? So here it becomes, this is what we call the U shape. Average cost starts high, then it falls. And then, given the average total cost curve, distinctive U shape. Remember when we reached 51 units of jeans? Yeah. We add more, but it's very expensive. So this is when it goes very up. So marginal cost, or MC, this is how you look at it. This is the total cost. And here we want to get the marginal cost. Now what is marginal cost? Now let's look. Here we want to see how much it costs for each additional unit. So how do we do that? The change in total cost when one more unit of output is produced. So here, if I produce 0, the total cost is 120. Okay? This is from the previous slide, remember?
Yeah.
10, the total cost is 205. Do you remember this? Yeah. Now, the difference between these two is 85.
Variable cost. One.
Do you see? From here to here, the difference between these two is 85. I divide it by the difference between these two, 10, I get $8.50. That's the marginal cost for each unit in the first group. Now I move from I to H. So this is from I to J. Here I increase 5 units. And how much is the total cost increase? 40. So 40 divided by 5, 8. Now here, from J to K, from 15 to 20, how much is the increase? 5. How much is the total cost increase? 25. From 245 to 270, the difference is 25. So here, 25 divided by 5 equals 5. Do you see how we calculate this marginal cost?
Yes.
So marginal cost, we will see how much more output and how much more total cost, and we will get per unit marginal cost. Now you can see marginal cost used to be $8. At the beginning 8, and 8.50, 8, and then 5. Now here it starts to increase to 9, to 11, to 20, to 83. Remember at the end when costs become very expensive, remember guy number 7 and 8?
Yeah.
They increase the cost. So here, marginal cost will be total change in total cost over change in total output. Are you guys okay with this? You guys are amazing. Marginal cost. Marginal cost rise because of the law of diminishing marginal product. Okay? As more workers have to share limited space and equipment in the short run, this crowding increases marginal cost and reduces this MPP. Are you guys okay with this?
Can you just remind us with MPP? What is it?
MPP, marginal physical product. Remember, you produce. That's yeah. So remember, we had more busy people, the crowded people. That's also part of the why marginal cost starts to increase. Now this is how it looks like. We start at 8.50, 8, 5, and then it increases. So this is what we call added output is increasing expensive to produce when marginal costs are rising. Okay. Are you guys okay now with the cost, fixed, average cost, total cost, marginal cost?
Yes.
Huh? You guys are okay? Let's see, if you're okay until now, raise your hand. That's amazing. If you are not okay, raise your hand. If you are like half okay. Alright, let's start with the half okay. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead, half okay.
What's the use of marginal cost?
Marginal cost? Why or what?
What's the benefit of it?
Oh, what's the benefit of marginal cost? Marginal cost is very important because if I produce one more unit, okay, how much it will cost me? That's the question. This is like every manager, like great managers, they always look at the margin, okay? If I add one more, how much it will cost me? For example, okay, we've got this class. If I add one more student, how much it will cost me?
0.
Okay, maybe 0. If I add one more, 0. One more, 0. Now if I reach 40 people, one more, it means another class. Always managers think at the margin. Do you see? So here, if I start to sell, okay, I will sell you, coffee. I can do 5. You've got the equipment, the machine. You can do 5 coffees an hour. Okay, so you will do 5. Let's say 5 coffees in 5 minutes. Okay, maximum. Now, if you want to do 6, it means you need to buy another machine and get a new employee. So you decided no, I will stick with the 5 maximum. So I will not add one more. So this idea of one more makes a lot of difference. I am going to produce 1,000 kilos of tomatoes. Okay? If I do one more, it means I need to expand my land, get a new well, get a new truck, and I need to move to the long term. Remember? So I will stop there. So this idea of one more becomes always a question. of managers. Because with one more, you need a new class, you need a new labor, you need a new capital, you need a new land, you need a new truck, you need a new machine, you need a new infrastructure, you need one more, you see, you need more security, new cost. You see, so this one more, how much it will add to the cost? If it will add, little, less than how much money I will earn, do it. If one more will give me the same revenue as the cost, it's okay. But if I do one more and it will cost me more than how much I will earn, stop.
The producer will stop.
Yes, you stop. Yeah, you reach when this is the answer in economics. You stop when marginal revenue equals your marginal cost.
And it will not, you will not find that increase in the cost. It will stop in a specific point.
No, it may see it goes to infinity. Cost can increase to infinity, but the thing is, when will you stop? Is when your marginal revenue, is at least equal to this marginal cost. So if your revenue is not increasing and your cost is increasing, you lose.
But we can't depend on the marginal revenue.
So we haven't talked about marginal revenue. So far, we only talked about marginal cost. So I'm just, your question is ahead. That's what we will see in the end of this chapter and next chapter. Do you see? But I'm just giving you the power of marginal cost and why it's important. Are you guys okay with this marginal cost?
So can you just explain the chart, the fixed line?
The fixed line, this line here.
Yeah, when we reach 50.
When you reach 50, the next, if you want to, have one more unit after 50, you go to 51 units, and that is very expensive. Remember, guy number 7 didn't do anything, and you paid him. Remember, guy number 8, didn't add any more units. Actually, it was very expensive. You actually lost some production. Do you see? Actually, after that, you want to, you can't go back more than 51. You try to do 52, it is going to be impossible, actually. There's no way you can do 52. You have seen what happened when we added more labor. Do you see? Are you guys okay with this?
The marginal cost, if I want to buy more, then there is no benefit.
Now let's just keep the terminology correct. Here we're talking about production. Okay, so I am the producer, and I am the producer. I want to see how much it cost me to produce the unit. So let's say I make lemon juice. I'm calculating how much it cost me. Okay, I'm making jeans. I'm looking at how much it cost me. Now in this example here, we said I want to produce 10 jeans. It will cost me around maybe $10. Now remember, if I want to if I reach number 21, number 50, it will cost me that $20. If I want to do 51, the cost is very expensive, some $85. Now if I want to do 52 units, the item number 52, it is impossible for me to do. So the cost is very high.
But it's not market study.
We're just calculating cost. All what we are doing is calculating cost. Now, of course, why do we calculate cost? So that we can decide if we want to produce or not. So if we want to do a market study or a feasibility study, we need to calculate costs. And this helps us understand costs.
So if I stop, it's marginal cost.
Well, we're not talking about stopping and not stopping. That's ahead of... We're going to see that later on this chapter and next chapter, when we stop. Here, we just want to understand what we mean by fixed cost and how we calculate it. What is average cost and how we calculate it. Marginal cost and how we calculate it. Variable cost and what it means.
So when I reach 50 jeans per day, this means that either I have to stay in the short line or go to the long line, which means expansion.
This is ahead. This question is ahead. Let's just understand the things we discussed. Let's see, I'll go back again just to make sure that we're okay. Okay.
Within my capacity, right? And my resources.
Let's see. Let's go again one more time over the same content just to make sure.